Hey, everyone, here at the Investing Stuff You Should Know podcast, where we bring you expert insights into the world of investing. My name is Johnny Nelson, my name always is. And we're thrilled today to have a special guest, Mat Sorensen. Mat, we know you're an expert. You have so many channels. You've written books in the self-directed IRA space and alternative and other spaces like that. So welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to be here. And I think we're going to talk about the stuff I love. I love real estate. I love investing and saving for a retirement account, alternative assets, all that stuff. You don't want my NCAA bracket picks or anything like that. Totally worthless. Okay.
Not yet. So I mean,
so don't ask me those questions, Johnny. I don't want to listen.
I might ask you like some hockey questions, the college hockey, since maybe you're a basketball guy, maybe I'm a hockey guy. We'll just have to let that partition just sit there and then talk about things that we both can resonate with. Okay.
There we go.
Matt, if you would explain to the audience your credentials, your expertise, and why that if they don't know, if they've been living under an investment rock, why they should listen to you and the kind of background and the size of the company that you run and manage and the kind of people that you're part of.
Of this, why they should listen to you. Now, I've been perfecting this speech to my 3 daughters, okay? It's a little different emphasis points there, but I'm an attorney. I'm CEO of Directed IRA. We have over 1.3 billion, about 1.4 billion in assets under administration, over 12,000 accounts. We've been around for 4 years. And what we do every day is we help clients use their IRA or 401k dollars to invest in alternative assets. This could be a recent one was a Mexican soccer team, a client bought with their retirement account a piece of it. We have clients buy livestock, crypto, all these things, private funds, startups that go public. We've had all those things happen here, even in a short amount of time. But the most common thing, the bread and butter of our business and what we're doing every day, what I do myself with my own retirement account is buy real estate. The most common asset people want to buy when they set up an account here is investment real estate. And so that's what our expertise is in. I've been an attorney for almost 20 years now. I wrote the #1 book called the Self-Directed IRA Handbook, which has sold 40,000 copies. So I've been around the block. I eat what I cook, so to speak, in the kitchen because I do this myself.
Yes.
And so this is one area where I do feel like I'm an expert and I can be helpful. But that's me. I'm married, got 3 great kids, like to cuddle and hold hands, take long walks on the beach.
There you go. Strange man, but we'll still listen here. We'll still listen. So just for the audience and for ourselves, Matt, we'll talk about some of the things that you're very familiar with. And then maybe we'll go to the edge a little bit on some, obviously it's March of 2023 and there's some real banking distress. Neither one of us, I don't think, is banking experts. I know you're in the adjacent space, you know how some of these things affect the retirement space. And it will be very interesting to discuss that. So we're going to start out really basic. And so essentially, I know that you wrote the SDIRA book, best-selling book. Talk to us about, as if I was a professional and I wanted to get into real estate, let's just assume that's real estate. It could be these other asset classes like you mentioned. Let's just keep it simple, say it's real estate. What is a self-directed IRA? How does that work? And then what are the basic steps?
Yeah, so a self-directed IRA is essentially an IRA that can invest in any asset allowed by law. But a lot of people come to me and are like, Matt, did the laws change? What happened? You can buy real estate in an IRA? Nope. You've always been able to do that since they came around. The thing is, the financial services industry has dominated the conversation, right? The Fidelity, the Merrill Lynch, the Morgan Stanley, all those companies, they've dominated the conversation to tell you can buy stocks, bonds, and mutual funds with your IRA. And the reason they tell you that is because that's what they sell. And if you have your IRA at like Northwestern Mutual or New York Life, what do they tell you to buy with your IRA? What they sell. You can buy annuities, okay, or insurance-based mutual funds. So those are the assets most people are familiar with, an IRA or 401k, but you've always been able to buy real estate with a retirement account. Now, this has to be investment real estate. We're not talking about like a second home or a property you're going to live in or your kid's going to live in.
People just had flashbacks of excitement, like, oh my God, I can buy a vacation with my retirement money. No.
Yeah, you can. Like, we have clients that buy the Airbnb or the VRBO stuff, but you can't stay there, right? Think of this as your retirement account. The government allows you to make investments, right? You can, small businesses, private companies, crypto, all these things I mentioned. But real estate has been a tried and true asset for so many people that it's available to retirement accounts. And if you take a step back, some people are like, man, I don't even care about retirement accounts. I'm 30 years old. I'm not going to retire for another 30. I'm going to worry about it later. Great. I don't want to convince you. I think that's stupid, but let me not convince you. But let me tell you what's important. There's
Yes.
$35 trillion in retirement accounts in the US. If
Yeah.
you're someone raising money for real estate, doing deals, starting a business where you need capital, where's all the money? Well, banks aren't going to give it to you, especially now. Where's the money? It's in
Bank,
US retirement accounts.
banks don't have it, folks, just as a
That's
sidebar.
right. They lost it. They've bought some crappy bonds. The FDIC's got to come bail them out. But seriously, this is where the money's at, is in retirement accounts. And so knowing this tool, whether you
Yes.
want to grow your own little sliver of that 35 trillion, or whether you want to just access other people's money for your deals and business opportunities, is a huge, this is a huge asset to you to just learn and have this knowledge base. Can make you a lot of money, can grow your own retirement account or help grow your business or investment holdings.
What's some of the largest objections? So then, like we're straddling the fence here, Matt. So we have
Yeah.
the perhaps the investor, maybe the
Yeah.
syndicator or the sponsor, fund manager, and then of course then you have the concerned professional that has a nice nest egg in the 401k here. What are some
Yeah.
common objections, and what gives them confidence? Hey, I'm smart enough to do this. I'm not going to get scammed. Which you could get scammed. You can get scammed anywhere. But what are some
Yeah.
common objections, and what's a direct responses to some of those things? I don't know what this is. What about
Yeah.
fees and all these? I'm sure you've heard everything probably 20 times in your day.
I think the greatest hurdle is laziness. I'll be honest. I can give education and I'll hit some other points, but the greatest barrier is education. You know what? Wall Street knows it. That's why
Yes.
you just fill out a questionnaire and answer questions in your 401k that you enroll in at work and you save in for 20 years. And now you got $500,000 and you have no idea what it's invested in. It's invested in a mutual fund or some target date index fund. You don't even know what it's called and what that investment is, what the fees are. You have no idea. Why? Because you just clicked a bunch of buttons at one point in time and enrolled and said, I'm 30, I want to retire when I'm 60, and I'm aggressive. They just pick some investment for you that they've been throwing your money in, right? And
Yes.
they know that you're lazy, and that's what people do. Now, some people get a little more involved and they'll pick the stocks that they're going to invest into. Some people have success. Frankly, most people don't. They can just buy the S&P 500 and do a little better. I don't know. But self-directing, I sometimes tell, and I even tell my team here at Directed IRA, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
If you
That's
want
a
to be,
good point. That's a good point.
yeah, if you're like not interested in going out to find deals, be involved, analyze, you don't have a belief that real estate's going to do better than the stock market, or particular real estate deals can outperform the stock market, self-directing is not for you. Most people who self-direct and that are successful in it have a belief in a certain asset class. And even within that asset class, they feel like they can, quote unquote, beat the market. And
Yeah.
so first, I think you're battling just laziness. And
Just but as a quick aside,
yeah,
does your team, is that something they've targeted, is to provide that education, bridge those gaps?
yeah,
Or yeah, is that something? And so just I guess is like, where would a person find resources? And I
yeah,
think your company is a fantastic spot for that. But you could
yeah,
just give that up. People like, I don't know. Maybe I am
yeah,
lazy, but maybe I'm trying to grow out of that laziness or that uncertainty. I think
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
mixture of things. It's maybe
yeah,
lazy, it's uncertainty, it's a lack of confidence in yourself, it's the poor
yeah,
financial education in our across our society, like a whole stack of stuff here. But
yeah.
could we chip away at parts of that? And then so what are some things we can actually do? And I think that's some educational resources that your company offers.
Yeah. So the first thing is definitely education. That's one way to overcome this, to get engaged that, okay, I can do this, right? Sometimes people hear self-directing and they're like, they start Googling, they get some bad information, some misinformation. So we have a ton of resources. In addition to my book that I mentioned, we have a Directed IRA podcast that's just about this.
Yeah, it's a great podcast, by the way, folks. I've listened to all the
Thank you.
episodes. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. And we have our Main Street Business podcast, which is more tax and legal in general. But we have our webinars. We're always trying to provide content. But what I tell clients, or people new to self-directing, is it's like playing a board game. You can't just do it, open the game and roll the dice and start moving pieces. You got to play with someone that's done it before,
Yeah.
or read the rule book to know how you're supposed to play the game. Because this is the tax code, let's be honest, that's involved here, but it's not rocket science like a board game. But once you've played it a couple of times, it's the same thing over and over again. And so just learning how to do that deal a little differently, because it's your IRA in the real estate deal versus you personally, and just learning those little pieces, it may seem a little tricky at first, but it's the same thing over and over again. So think of it like the board game, invest a little bit of time doing your first or second deal. But once you've done a few, it's not hard. You know the steps, you know the process, you know the form, you know what you can't do, what you can. But think of this too as you're doing this for 10, 20 years of investing. It's not just this first deal you're doing. So I think if people approach it that way, like the board game, it's much easier to digest. But you can't, on the other hand, just like not learn anything and just think you can just do it tomorrow and
Yeah.
not read up on it or not ask questions. But we have a team too. Like you can get a free call to set up an account with one of our people that'll go through your questions in the process and what you need to do too. So you can rely on your IRA custodian too on process questions, what you can and can't do, what's my next step type questions.
That's amazing, man. And I love the digestible and the common thread there, the common theme. We've all approached a new game before, a board game, a card game, whatever. And there's like this like tiny print little manual of all the
Yeah.
rules. Oh, this is like a headache and I don't get it all. And you read it six
Yeah.
times, you still don't conceptualize the whole thing. And like you said, it's still essentially like a game, or there's some kind of particular objective. There's a set of rules. You play with someone that's done it. And after a couple of times, it becomes very, not rote, but very repetitive. And you can actually have fun doing it. It actually something
Yeah.
you enjoy and you can actually learn and look forward to doing more of it. So that makes it very attainable to people versus, oh, this, I'm stepping to the edge of the unknown. There's probably more rules than I'll ever understand or underget. Hey guys, it's just, I'll liken it, like Matt said, to a game. And that's an excellent way to just work through that. So you kind of overcome those challenges.
And you don't have to master it all. If you're a real estate investor, you don't need to learn about crypto. You don't need to learn about private companies or startups, pre-IPO companies. You don't need to stress about those rules. Just stay in your lane of what you're planning to invest in and learn that. And then you're just going to, because what most people do that they come here, they do one deal and that deal's done, and then they go do another one that's the same thing. They're a private money lender today. Next year, they're a private money lender. It's just a different deal. They invest in private syndicated funds or deals. 5 years, they're doing the same thing. So most people stay in their lane of what they like and they know, and they're just repeating the same stuff they already have.
That's awesome, man. And that's just, it gives a high level kind of place to find that, how it works and how just, I guess anyone with a retirement account might be able to do that. Talk was real quick about the difference between a 401k and IRA and some of the details there, just like a minute or so of some of the rules there. Exiting a job, I know there's some important guidelines around those items.
Yeah, so 401ks are employer-based plans, and typically the employer is going to have control of that plan while you work there, and they're going to control the investment options. So if you work at Dunder Mifflin, let's say you're at Toby or HR, and of course you enroll in the 401k, but the 401k plan's at Vanguard, right? Toby can't invest there, right? He's an employee of Dunder Mifflin still. He's he's going to have Vanguard investment options because that's what Dunder Mifflin picked. Now, when Toby hits 59 and a half, and if you stay with the office here, Creed is definitely 59 and a half. All right.
Yes.
Okay. He still works there, but he's hit retirement age. So he can actually roll the money out of Vanguard to an IRA that can self-direct. So that's just called a direct rollover. He could roll up from Vanguard to Directed IRA. That's our company. And now those funds will let you invest in real estate. Let's say, go back to Toby. Toby can't invest, or Jim or Pam, right? They're all stuck. They'd have to quit. And Jim quit in the show, if you remember that, for a while. For the sports thing. Okay. So when Jim quit, he could have rolled his 401k out to an IRA, a directed IRA, and he could have started self-directing. So the one category of people I'm trying to emphasize here is like people that have a day job where they're still employed, that current employer, they're locked in. But if it's a former employer or you've hit retirement plan age, you can roll your 401k money out. Now, IRAs are easier because you can always move an IRA. You got an IRA, TD Ameritrade, it's traditional IRA, roll it over to a traditional IRA at Directed IRA. You got a Roth IRA at Fidelity, you can transfer it over to a Roth IRA at Directed IRA. Transfer a piece of it, the whole thing, depends on what piece you want to self-direct. So your IRAs are easy to move around, and you can, again, move the whole thing or just the piece you want to specifically self-direct to do real estate or what other assets you're doing. 401ks are where you can sometimes get stuck because you're in a current employee, not yet at retirement plan age.
That's an excellent overview, Matt, and thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And I know quite a few people, 30s and 40s, similar to my own cohort, professionals, and some of them oftentimes they do have, some have a long career trajectory in a company, but often they've left a company or two in their past, and they have just kind of almost dead money, just sitting in that 401k for the past company, and that's a ripe opportunity for you to take control of your financial future and put yourself, maybe it's not the most large, maybe it's not the largest account ever, but
Yeah.
it's enough for you to get comfortable with it and dip your toe into it and see how it goes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's so many kind of lost money or orphaned retirement accounts out there of people that then again, it goes back to laziness, frankly. It
Yeah.
just goes back to this it's there. I'll go back to it one day. We have this kind of mantra here of take control of your retirement. Like we've trademarked that. That's been in my
Oh,
videos for
really? Okay. I didn't know that.
10 years. Yeah, it's trademarked, not to be used without the express written consent of Mat Sorensen Inc. or Major League Baseball. Okay. So yeah, but that's been, as I was talking to clients over the years, I'm like, the people who self-direct are the people who are like, fine, like, damn it, I'm going to take control.
Yeah.
This is my money. I want to have a retirement I'm looking forward to, actually. Some people are scared to death of their retirement. We talk to clients in their 50s and people like that in my law firm and even at Directed, and they're like, they got like 100 grand and they're terrified. Like they're behind and they know it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and one of the reasons they're behind is they have not been proactive in it. They've left it to Wall Street. Even if they've been disciplined in saving, right? They put their money away, they've gotten the match at their employer, maybe they even contributed to an IRA here and there. They've just gotten a little lazy with how it's investing. And over time, that really hurts you. So we kind of like to say, take control. For those people who are like entrepreneurial, real estate investors, small business owners, like they're the type that get self-directing because they're already like, they get that in everything else they do in their life, investing in
Yeah.
real estate and their small business, whatever it is. They're like our perfect clientele. And frankly, it's like the most common person who self-directs.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All right, the second half of the show here, we're gonna pivot a bit to something
Okay.
a little on the edge of definitely my knowledge and more probably the more little overlap in some of your knowledge here. Let's talk about right now. We're going through what people are calling a 2023 banking crisis. We know that Silicon Valley Bank was shut down. Signature Bank, actually, I opened up a fund 2 months ago. And what bank did I use? I used Signature Bank. Very disconcerting.
Yeah.
Republic Bank. So yeah, there's some, and then Credit Suisse just got bought by UBS. So yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of turmoil in the banking world here. How does, at a high level, Matt, how does the monetary policy or the money supply impact or affect the retirement accounts? Like you mentioned, the trillions of dollars in retirement accounts. How and what's the linkage? What's the connection there? So people understand at a high level how those different
Yeah.
pieces affect their retirement account.
I think the message, which is actually an exciting message, is this is opportunity for people that have money. And even if you think, man, the only money I have is in my retirement account, kind of like the people you talked about before, there are gonna be a lot of working professionals that have good money in their retirement accounts, but they've never really put it to work. They haven't, quote unquote, taken control. It's scary out there to see when a bank gets taken over and the government's starting to backstop this, and some of these banks are getting acquired at the end of the day. So hopefully capital's okay. Even just yesterday, we had someone investing into a fund that was at Signature Bank, quite honestly, one of our larger accounts. And we're like, are you sure you want to send money there right now? And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, it's going to be fine. We're like, okay, we're just checking. It's weird to think that. Or it's just
It
a
is
little
like, are you sure you want to send money to a bank? Like, where the hell? Like,
yeah,
what?
that's in the newspaper every day. I was like, okay. But I really think there's opportunity out there. And as there's a little bit of chaos in the financial world, I'm telling you, and I have clients, my largest client has a $300 million Roth IRA. I've got a lot of clients with $10 million accounts. They make money. They are going to make money right now. They'll realize it later, but the
Yes.
investments and the decisions and the moves they're making right now is what grows their accounts. It was not a year ago when the market was on fire. They were realizing the decisions they made 10 years ago, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And so think of the capital you have, and this is where you want to get proactive about where the opportunities are. So for the self-directed investor, this is where they get to think about their retirement accounts and, okay, where's the opportunity now? Where's the value? Where's the asset classes I think that are going to be safe or they're going to overperform based on all this correction and stuff? We have, it can be in different ways, quite honestly. I think some people, when I say that, think, oh, I got to go find some home run deal. No, that's not what I'm saying. And we have clients that are private money lenders. I have plenty of 10 million plus accounts here. I'm telling you, they started with 500,000 or less. All they do is loan money privately for 10% interest and 2 points. If you run the math on that in 10, 20 years of doing that, you're going to have a $10 million account. And they're just going to far outperform the market. But that's base hits to me. That's not hitting a home run, 100% return on one type of deal in a year type thing. But look where the opportunities are and realize that those who have money to invest can find opportunities right now. So I think it's scary. And this is maybe, I'm trying to put icing on the cake, or it's not really a cake. I'm trying to,
I think we're putting icing on the turd here.
yeah, icing on the turd, maybe. Yeah. I was like, there's not much of a cake here being baked, but I'm
just
trying
kidding
to
you.
spin on it, but I
Yeah.
do think it's true. It's when people make money.
Yeah, no, and I love that positivity, man. I don't think it's just Pollyanna-ish, just an overly glib sense of optimism. I really do think
Yeah.
if you either start now or maybe you've already started about getting your own financial house in order and working on the educational piece, I really do think it's an opportune time to make some moves. And like you said, the base sets, you don't have to be like wildly aggressive. Oh, the latest crypto startup somewhere. But
Yeah.
when you see pain and just kind of people scrambling around and banks failing, your money is still, I mean, if it's still there, and then I look at it, it's still there to do something with. So you could leave it in the bank, which is, we're losing some confidence there. You could put it into the stock market. There's depending what stock you're going into.
Right. Yeah.
And then of course, and there's these other alternative asset classes. And I like to think of it, and I'm not so much anti-Wall Street, but I'm really pro Main Street. And if you can take that money that, like you were saying, Matt, about $10 million accounts, and you're doing private money lending, oftentimes that's like a very regional or even a city type of thing. So you live in an area, these 6 contractors or flippers or whatever it is, and you trust them, you know them, and you're very much in control. You're really contributing a lot of value to your local economy. You're not sending it to Wall Street, the financial powerhouses of London and Zurich and New York. You're actually keeping that in your local. And I think it's extremely powerful. I think it's going to revitalize. It has the potential opportunity to revitalize sections of America, sections of around the world that otherwise would be starved of that capital.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of the investments that we've had a bunch of accounts invest into recently, is just here locally in Phoenix. It's a local fund and they raise money often. And right now we have a housing crisis here in Phoenix. Like apartment stock is way down, way behind. And they're like renovating extended stay hotels into apartments. And that's cool. Like we have people in town here that like go look at that project. They can put their eyes on it and be like, I own a 0.5% of that deal right there.
Yeah.
And it's just cool because it's more tangible to you to see it, to know where the money's going, to be able to talk to the person doing the deal. And a lot of people who are raising money in this way, they're accessible. You're not going to get a call with the CEO of Coca-Cola when you invest in there. You can't even get a tour of the plant. You get stuck at the gift shop. But in these things, you can be more in touch with your money. It can be invested in your community, which is cool too, if that's important to you. But also you can be invested in assets you think have value. That's a high value thing right now. If you think of it from an investor who's wanting to put money to work, a lot of our clients, like, that's an awesome idea. Like they know that's needed right now and that's going to be a successful asset, but they can't do it by themselves. They need someone with that idea that's going to run the deal, that has the connections, that has the contractors, that has the capability, the zoning stuff that's got to happen to pull that off. But they can be a piece in it and financially benefit from it and grow their retirement account. I can give tons of examples. Even when COVID hit, we had clients using their retirement accounts to bail their small businesses out.
Oh, really? Wow.
They were getting equity in the business for providing them with cash to keep them afloat, which is keeping people on payroll, which is keeping a business in their community that's been around for years that was otherwise profitable, but had a tough time making it through being shut down through COVID. There's lots of cool little things I think that do happen from a community standpoint that are a win-win. It's opportunistic in some ways because we're looking for good return for our retirement account, but it's also doing some good either. And I don't mean this in an ESG type doing good thing. I just mean it in there's connection to the money. It's valuable, it's needed, it can make a difference. You can lay eyes on it type thing.
That's awesome, man. Off the wall question here. When a retirement account, like in a large institution, let's just pick on SVB, for example, Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah.
What happens to when they have that? I imagine they had a 401k and a retirement plan, and a bank gets bought and all that stuff. Where does that money go? Where does that retirement account go?
Everybody's retirement accounts are already invested into something for the most part, right?
Okay.
Silicon Valley Bank might use Fidelity, and Fidelity
okay.
may have all the cash, but eventually someone else is going to acquire the bank, probably at Silicon Valley Bank. I don't know that they've had an acquirer yet. I think Signature has, and you mentioned Credit Suisse has. I think there's still even Silvergate, if you remember back the other bank that went before even SVB, the crypto bank. But But I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
Silicon Valley
Didn't
Bank.
make quite as much waves, but yeah, that was actually that did
Yeah.
happen. Yes.
Yeah, I think even First Republic Bank, I heard was getting bought by JP Morgan today, maybe.
Yeah.
But the employees there and those retirement accounts, they should be fine. Although this is going to be an opportunity for them to roll their money out if they want. So if you're an employee at Silicon Valley Bank and you wanted to self-direct, there's new Silicon Valley Bank like receivership entity now, and a change of ownership of the company does allow for a rollover in most instances where you can roll out. So plus they might be losing their jobs anyways, but I don't know. So I think those accounts though are going to be at like a Fidelity or somewhere like that. So likely fine, maybe be able to roll out depending on change of control of the company.
Awesome, man. As a kind of the final episode of the show here, what is I think your company is pretty young, but where do you see
Yeah.
your company growing and going, and why would that momentum keep happening here? Is education and knowledge as people learn more about it, or just because
Yeah.
of the level of service and the quality of service and the level that you provided it? Is that where you're going to attract customers, or is it going to just be more people out there, which I'm hoping to, I want to hear a particular answer, but I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Why is your company growing, and do you think this is going to like just get more and more commonplace out there, your company and others like it?
Yeah. I think the industry and space as a whole will grow
Yes.
quite a bit actually, because people have an appetite for this. They don't like just being invested in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You know what's funny? Even just looking at my presentation slides over the years, I always show a chart of our industry, of just the retirement plan industry in general. And I show this chart that we was $15 trillion in retirement accounts. I've been doing it this long. There's $35 trillion in retirement accounts now, right? There's so much money in it. And this is where people really are investing today. And so as people get more and more money in their retirement accounts, they're changing jobs more often, they can roll out and self-direct more easily. And so it's a growing industry, but our goal at Directed IRA is to be number one. That's when we started the company, we wanted to be number one. And some of the problems in our industry is that a lot of our competitors do not make it easy to self-direct.
Sure. Yeah.
And as I was an attorney, I would send hundreds of accounts a month to the people who are now my competitors as
Yeah.
referrals. Because I was
Yeah.
an attorney in the space. I wrote the number one book. I get lots of referral opportunities, and they would frankly fall on their faces. I did not think the companies were doing a good job. I was like their freaking customer service department, and I'm like, I sent you the business. So I'm like, we got to do this different. I want to be able to take care of the customer, make it easy on them. So our mantra is making self-directed IRA investing easy, making
Yes.
investing in alternative assets or real estate easy with an IRA or 401k, take some of the pain points out of it. And we do that with electronic documents, with a knowledgeable staff, with fast turnaround times, and just like first in class customer service, no matter what business you're in. It's super important to have really good customer service. And you can, if anybody Googles us, you can see our reviews and stuff and compare them to our competitors. But when we've scaled pretty fast, and we're at 1.3, 1.4 billion in assets in 4 years, 12,000 plus accounts. We're growing probably one of the fastest companies in our space, I would think. I can't, my estimation of everyone's numbers is that we are.
Yes.
And when I say that organic growth, we're not buying other companies or accounts.
Yeah.
But that's what we want to be number one in our space. But I think the differentiator is, see, you can see the problems in an industry. And I don't care what business anyone's in. You can see the problems going on and be like, ooh, I know how to do that better. I know how to solve that and be better than company X.
Yes.
People have millions of ideas about how to do that, but can you execute on it?
Yeah.
That's the hard thing, is executing on it every day and building a team that can execute on it. And that's like what I've realized is like, I just recruited some of the best people in the space. I brought other people into the space that I knew. And like, we just have a team that just knows how to execute and do it at a high level and create that culture for everyone else that comes in here. So when someone comes in here new, they're like, this is how they do it here.
That's super exciting, man. Super exciting
Yeah.
to hear that. And also because I've actually referred your team or your company. I've referred a couple of clients essentially to you guys here, and they've given excellent feedback. So it's been exciting to be able to confidently, a little bit like out there, who do I recommend? And you ask your network and network and network.
Yeah.
And then, so passing that along as you connect, and then it's a win for the client. It's a win for me as a fund manager or syndicator. Of course, then it's a win for your whoever the team is, that hopefully they can provide that high level of service. So that's really, it's good. You want to know the kind of recommendations you can 100% recommend with no reservations and just say, go for it. You're going to be taken care of.
And that's what we're going for, because at the end of the day, that's our brand really. And for someone like you that can feel that confidence, and that's people who we want to feel confident, people raising money, doing syndications. Like, these are professionals, attorneys like I used to be. We want these centers of influence that are going to be like, I referred that person, I got good feedback. Or I saw them go through the process. I'm raising money and like their money was in here a week later. Holy crap, the last company I sent them to took 60 days. And so we pay attention to those things. And that's what's really important. We'll set like us apart from our competition.
Awesome, man. The final thing here. Let's talk about your social media presence. I know you
Yeah.
have Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm just reading through Instagram, YouTube. So a lot of stuff.
Trying.
Yeah. Do you think that is, now we're talking about high level here. So now first we're talking about the successful professional. It has retirement money. Then we touched on kind of the banking and the banking sector and how that influences, whether it's you're a fund manager or maybe a professional, how that might influence and how you approach it. The final thing here, maybe is an entrepreneur. And then also the thing that the end customer sees is like, what is the power? Why do this social media game as hard as you guys do it? And what kind of results do you think it enables? Or if you didn't do it, what kind of growth curtailing might that have?
I think for us is we just want to get content out. I
Yes.
feel for me, I'm an industry expert in self-directing and I can talk to a lot of different topics. I've grown and scaled a business successfully. I can talk about a lot of tax and legal stuff as an attorney, but I try to stay into what I'm an expert at.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to build my brand more in that way. And it's not easy, but I'm still trying to figure it out. But the best thing for us has been a podcast.
Yeah.
And so now my partner Mark and I have been doing the Main Street Business podcast for 12 years. We have like almost 500 episodes, but we have
It's a lot, man.
2 million downloads of the podcast and
Yeah.
definitely a popular following. It works when we record, and we have the Directed IRA podcast too, which is more niche. And so the Main Street one's like a big audience because we're to any small business owner, real estate investor, entrepreneurial person, like wealth building, tax, legal planning. We hit all that, very applicable to a big audience. Then we got the self-directed one, which is very narrow. But there was something like I heard from Tim Ferriss about building your audience on social network. I really recommend. He has a podcast episode on building your audience. It's pretty good. And he
I'll
talks
listen to that. Yeah, I'm eager to check that out, actually.
Yeah, give it a good listen. It changed my thinking on it. Is you don't necessarily want a big audience. You want an engaged audience. And so that's in your lane. And it's funny because when we used to do our podcast, I'll give an example of why I think it's important. Mark and I, we used to have a syndicated radio show for the podcast. We were in like 50 markets and we would just record remote and upload it to the radio show. We'd go into a local station and they'd send it out to their network and then go on all these channels. And we get a little bit of traction for it. But then these guys were like, hey, people are starting to do these podcasts. It was hardly a thing back then.
Yeah.
If you want the file, you can upload it to like the web and do a podcast. And we're like, why not? It's already done. Just throw it up. And then what would happen is people would call our office and they'd be like, hey, we listened to your podcast. And our staff's like, what's a podcast? And the difference was, see, going on radio, there might have been a listener base there of hundreds of thousands of people in all those different markets, but they didn't choose to listen to our show. We were just AM 570 in their market.
Just going in there,
Saturday.
Just have to be going in their ear, coming out of the speaker, going into their ear like white noise.
They didn't choose to listen to that. They did not pick it. It was just on, and sometimes we entertained them and they caught something and whatever.
Yeah.
But the podcast is people pick that. They choose that topic. They choose that show to follow and subscribe to. And so it's a very curated like audience of people who I need to learn about this.
Yeah.
And so we find that to be so much more powerful because I'd like rather have 1,000 people subscribe to a podcast than be on a radio station that hits 200,000 people. You know what I mean? And so if you take that kind of to social media too, is we just want to have the right connections and focus on, I'm trying to figure this out right now, by the way, but we figured out more on the podcast, but with social media is just build that brand and that audience of what you do, but have something you can sell. Because like me talking about self-directed IRAs, if I didn't have a self-directed IRA business, it'd be really hard to be motivated in that. And frankly, I don't know that I'm good at it.
Yeah.
If you raise capital, for example, why would you not have a podcast about investing in real estate? And like so many people, they become, I want to talk about business. Okay, what do you do? Like, how does that, what do you have to offer and sell? And I mean that in like a positive way of like, do you do that every day? Can you speak to that? Can that person who listens to you be a customer of yours?
That's an interesting perspective, Matt. I'm thinking about it. I'll have to like actually digest that. What you're saying there more like there's a certain authenticity and deep connection. And like you said, even for yourself, like it drives a certain passion. Now, there's a reward here. Not only do I love talking about it, but then also can be a monetary reward for me and the team and the things that I do. So there's like a very, very authentic, which I think speaks to capitalism itself, a very
Yeah.
tight circle there that feeds on itself versus just saying, I love talking about parakeets and hey,
Yeah.
we have a parakeet or a bird cage,
Yeah.
Amazon channel and sell that.
Or like
So
a
you,
book on parakeets or something. But I think like and I love the book idea too. That was something really important for me.
yeah,
Like building.
I've seen a few other people do that as well. That find some success or like they just happen to
Yeah.
coincide with their focus in their niche, and then they happen to write a book. And then sometimes kind of hard to differentiate between was it success because of your kind of ongoing business success and happened to be concurrent with the book, or did
Yeah.
the book generate it? So which one caused it? Sometimes hard to piece that apart. But oftentimes
Yeah.
it does happen, and sometimes it really is attributable, correlated to when the book finally arrived on the scene. And then you see someone, maybe your own or someone else that you
Yeah.
know, their name really get out there and explode. It's very interesting dynamic there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes the people with the book that are like, let's say you're a subject matter expert, the process of writing the book for me was like, I really had to distill some concepts down into an easily digestible format. And that's what good writing is, take
Yes.
something complex, make it easy for people to understand, which no one had really done in my space, at least. And that helps people get mass adoption, but it also gives me something where I want to learn more. Or I get the engineer client, the pilot, the like person that wants to know every detail. Our account's $295 a year. I'm not going to be able to do that, but I wrote a book and
Yeah.
those people will read it. I have those clients and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm ready now. I had all
Yeah.
these questions and your book answered all of them. I'm like, I know. I worked in that space for 10 years advising clients. I assembled all the questions. I answered them in 18 chapters. But
Oh
then
man,
I'll have
that's it.
clients, and I hate to say it, it's my real estate agent clients, some of my real estate investor clients that are not going to read a book. They won't,
Yeah.
but they'll listen to a podcast in their car. They'll tune in
So
a
different.
webinar.
So
And
now
then,
we're talking about different presentations of the same information. So some people are
yeah,
visual learners, audio learners. Some people like to read, and there's like different ways of information being conveyed
yeah,
to a person. It could be like their brain, the way they're made, whatever it is. Like that's why that's
hmm,
the beauty of these different platforms is the presentation. And like obviously when you went from just the spoken word to the printing press was like so revolutionary.
yeah,
Like, oh my God, this is going to change the world. And it did. And then we had like the radio
yeah,
revolution, and then we had the TV revolution. Now we have
yeah.
this like all those combined and more
In the
very
palm of your
innovative ways,
hand.
the palm of your hand and more. And so that's been just so revolutionary and amazing. I'm
Yeah,
glad that we're living in an incredible
yeah,
age, Matt. People like forget like all this trouble, all this banking stuff and strife. We live in such an incredible time. I'm grateful to be
yeah.
alive, and I'm grateful that to be just part of this. It's an incredible time to be on this earth.
It is. And I think that's where, when you just mentioned the word information, what I wrote in my book is what I talked about in my podcast, what I talked about on this show with you is the same stuff. But people need it in different formats and different versions at different times of their life. And so I'll just give one last example, and this I'll just leave all my marketing stuff here. Is we've only been around for 4 years. There's companies in my space that have been around for 30 years that have 200 plus accounts. The number one company in our space, it's got 200,000 plus accounts, been around for 30 years. If you Google the word self-directed IRA, the
Yes.
number one company that pulls up in natural search is self-directed IRA. Now, why is that? I'm competing with companies that have been around for 20, 30 years, that have had
Yeah.
websites for a long time, that have content. We just try to dominate content. So we're just trying to get content, education content out there. But you can't just have content. You have to have good content. People are
Right.
going to stay on the content. They're going to continue listening. They're going to keep reading. You're going to teach them something new when they come back. And one thing that's successful is you got to create a schedule for that. But that's really been really important to us too. And our success is we really dominated content, which helps us on the website. We don't pay for SEO. A lot of people are like, and have outside people in my industry like, how are you guys kicking our ass, basically? And I'm like, we just put out content. They're like, are you paying for this? Who's your SEO guy? I'm like, he's some 25-year-old. It's not like I got like Mark Zuckerberg behind the curtain here or something. He's like, I don't, but it's just like a commitment to getting the content out, being regular. And it's crazy how that gets rewarded over time. But I'll say this too, is it's like, you have to have patience in that process too, and just stick with it. And also you get better at it.
For sure.
Man,
Yeah.
I could talk about this forever, but
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, and I love it. And it's actually, I think it's a nice little section and kind of the kind of bookend the tail end of our convo with. It's not really expected, and it's a fascinating field. And again, we're pulling out like the entrepreneurial thread and all the different things, which is common across all many industries that the kind that you're in, but
yeah,
very generalized in like what is social media and how do you do it, and SEO and search optimization, all these different things here. So it's very applicable to a lot of entrepreneurs and even just people in general that are trying to start their own brand. So those things are very relevant right now, especially it's just constantly growing, constantly being demanded, it's constantly changing, and you do have to keep on your toes about it. But so enough said there. So everyone, we thank you for joining us, for being part of this episode. Matt, if you want to take us out with a few words here, what's the best place for people to get in contact with you? Just find Google any of your channels.
Yeah, directedira.com is the easiest place to go. You can find our podcast there, our webinars. You can schedule a new account appointment with one of our new account reps. If you're like a syndicator or someone who raises funds, like Johnny said, like we have a business development department. They can help you and give you some tools to raising capital, because we want to help people take control, make it easy to self-direct and invest their IRA in assets they actually care about. You can also find me at matsorensen.com. That's M-A-T, just one T, Sorensen, SORENSEN.com. And I'm also at Mat Sorensen everywhere on most social channels. So thanks for having me. Let us know where we can be a resource for you guys.
Awesome, man. And thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Investing Stuff You Should Know podcast. Until next time, thank you.